Hi, and welcome back to another episode of Leaving a Rich Legacy with Jessica. Now, it's been a minute. It's been a minute, and I had a little bit of a setback delay due to falling ill, but I'm so excited to be back and to talk about this topic. But before we get started, let me tell you about the podcast. Leaving a Rich Legacy is what I would like to call a love letter to my younger self, whether that be myself as a child, a teenager, my 20s, even my early 30s. There's so many conversations that I realized through my own healing and self-love journey that I just never talked about, whether that's with my mom, my dad, my siblings, my friends, my coworkers, or even my peers in school. Just there's so many things that we didn't discuss, and there's so many generational patterns that kind of prevent us from talking about certain things because it's expected, because it was basically done the generation prior. And this podcast is an opportunity to have those conversations and to really break those patterns and create legacies. So that's why I say it's a love letter to myself. And we talk about everything: self-love, healing, money, family, relationships, boundaries, singles, married. It's a combination of everything because these things are all important to me. So on this episode, we're going to talk about, it was a year from my egg freezing journey back on January 21st. And I did not get a chance to upload a video. I actually had one, and I still have an interview that's going to follow this, but I got sick and I just was not in a position to post it. And, I talk about self-love and taking care of yourself, self-care, on my YouTube channel, but also on this podcast. And it was so important for me to rest and take the time that I needed to recover so that I can come to you fully energized, but really, really being able to talk about this that I'm so passionate about. So for those of you who have seen my YouTube channel, I actually documented in 3 parts my egg freezing journey. It was about, I think, 12 days total between when I started the actual injections and then when I had the egg retrieval. And it was an experience. It was an experience that I had to prep myself for mentally, emotionally. I changed my phone number because I wanted to protect the energy that I allowed in during that time. It's an expensive process. And, there are some grants and things that will help, women or families, actually prepare for it. But I decided to pay for it out of pocket. I did get some assistance with my medication, but it's expensive. And I needed to protect my energy because I could not allow something to happen. And I was just so afraid it would ruin like my results. I was so delicate with my body, how I handled myself, just my thought process, what I fed myself mentally, during that time, the music I listened to, the videos that I listened to on YouTube, all of, positivity, sermons. I was just so intentional. And through that process and preparing, I learned a lot about how so many women who were going through this journey was struggling through some of the Facebook groups that I was a part of. And I just, I never asked my doctor about, am I fertile? Will I have issues, having children? I've never been pregnant. So I never thought to ask those questions. I just assumed based on the fact that my mom has 4 kids, my sister has 5, and my grandparents, my grandmothers, they had a number of children. But then going through this process, I realized there are a lot of Black women who struggle with fertility and fibroids. And it was an education moment for myself. Not only for myself, though, for the circle that I allowed to stay close with me, it was an education moment for them as well. So this episode is really me just talking about the last year and where I am, knowing that I froze my eggs a year ago, and what do I think about it? So I know my aunt asked me this question when I was home, and she just asked me what do I want to do? I'm single, I'm 36, have I thought about what I want to do with my eggs? And, just really, really encouraging me to think about that, especially if I desire to be married. And when I froze my eggs, it was not a when I froze them at the time, it wasn't something that I thought about where it was, okay, I'm freezing my eggs, and then when I meet somebody, I want to use them. I froze my eggs because I truly wanted to have options just in case, if I'm blessed with a husband in my 40s and, the quality of my eggs are a concern, or, the lack of eggs in general, I wanted to have that protection. So that's what I consider it. It's the option of really preserving my fertility and knowing that if I need them, they're there. And, when I think about my eggs and where I am, I'm single. I do think I am in a position where, if I've thought about it for like, do I want to foster kids? I don't really have the time, but I've considered it because one of my girlfriends, she did fostering and she loved it. And I'm just at a place right now that, I really need to consider. I haven't really considered, I should say. I'm at a place where over the last year, I haven't thought about like what I would do with those eggs right now. I just know every month they pull money out for the storage and we go from there, right? I love that it is an option, and I love that it has provided me an opportunity to connect with so many women to talk about either their challenges, them needing support. I've done some like consultations with women who are trying to make a decision, going through the process, and they need support and they have questions and they don't really know anybody to go to. And some of these women, I don't even know. They see me on social media and they reach out, and I'm willing to have the conversation with them because I know what it felt like when I was preparing for the journey. So I believe, and I was in Houston working long hours. I hope I get this right. When I spoke with a doctor virtually, I even did my blood work in Houston. I wasn't in Dallas. But when I spoke to the doctor virtually, I believe it was in October. I had to make my deposit like November 20th. And then once you make a deposit, they actually schedule the date of when you, like they give you a time frame of when you will actually start the stem injection process. And I was like working by myself in Houston. It was, I'm doing things. I'm kind of telling people that I'm doing, talking to the doctor and moving forward and things like that. But during the process, I felt very alone because I didn't know anybody else who had gone through IVF. I didn't know anybody else who had froze their eggs. It wasn't a topic that was popular to me in the Black community. So I didn't know who to talk to, right? Like I would share with people, this is what I'm going to do. I would like your prayers. But I didn't have anybody to bounce those things off of. And it's been so important for me to provide that type of space for other women, even if I don't know them. I want to encourage them because throughout this journey, I have had opportunity to educate other women because no one knows. I say no one knows, but most women don't know that we are born with all the eggs that we will ever have in our lifetime, right? I don't know what I assumed. It was more of like, oh, you just continue to have more eggs every month, right? You just, I don't know. I don't know. But when I heard that information for the first time, I was like, oh, wow. I didn't know that. And then I shared it with one of my girlfriends, and she's in her 50s, and she's like, what? And she actually wrote my blog for me to capture this journey. And she was like, I am learning so much about our body through this process. And it just blows your mind because we don't think to research it. If you don't ask your doctor, you don't think to talk about fertility and will I be able to conceive and carry. And I'm just going to speak for me. I haven't had a doctor that has brought that up to me ever. That, have you thought about your fertility? I did ask my gynecologist when, a few years ago, this is how I found the physician I used. And she told me basically, she was like, well, wait until you turn 35. And I met with him before then because I was curious and I had already talked about it with some of my girlfriends. I think we're like a New Year's party that we went to Houston. And, I was just like, hey, if I'm not married by 35, I'm going to freeze my eggs. But when you think about like when you go to your annual checkup or the doctor, and if you don't have children, especially if you're a single woman, like I know I didn't think about it. And when I think about most of my friends before I went through it that were single, they didn't think about it as well. So it's just been an opportunity to educate other women about knowing the options they have available and what they choose to do with their body. You know, some women want to adopt, they don't want to have children, and that's okay if that's their decision. In one of the Facebook groups that I'm a part of, there are some women who have used sperm donors, and you know that works for them. There are some women who use egg donors because of the quality of their eggs, and that works for them. But through this journey, I have learned that this is my body. This is my choice of what I do. And, you know, if people judge me because I decided to freeze my eggs, you know, I saw this podcast of this woman talking about, you know, women have just invested all of their time in their careers. Now they're 35, 40 and they want kids and they're having kids by themselves. And it's like, I can't quote the exact words, but it was basically looking down upon career women who have decided to focus on their careers and are now ready to have children, and they're ready to do it on their own. And what I say to that is, you know, I've been with my company for 15 years. This is the only company that I know as an adult. You know, I had a job in high school and college, but as an adult, this is the only job that I basically know. And I have been very career driven, and I've had a job most of my career where I traveled throughout the country. So it was very difficult to establish relationships or keep relationships, because not only am I traveling, I'm working 6 days a week, 12 plus hour days, right? It's hard to meet anybody. And if you're in another city, I just want to sleep. I'm getting off, I'm maybe grabbing food, or if I'm meal prepped, and I'm calling a night, and then your days off on Sundays, like you just don't have the energy. So I have invested a lot of time into my personal, you know, my career, and I do acknowledge that there are some things that I could have done better when it comes to my personal life. And I will say when I lived here, so 2014, I officially moved here in 2013, and I believe like at one point, like I was actively dating. Now it didn't go anywhere, but I was actively dating. So I had that experience, but overall I have been career driven and focused on my career because, you know, that's where I primarily spend my time. But even if that is the case, you know, don't judge me because of decisions that I've made for my life. You know, it's my life, it's my decisions. And if I feel like at the age of 35 or 40, okay, it's now time for me to settle down, I don't think that's anybody else's place to call me out or judge me or put me down. And just listen to the clip from that podcast. It just came across like as just really, really talking down to this specific woman that the podcaster was referring to. But that could be me as well, right? I somewhat fit what she's calling out, and I'm sure there's a lot of other women, and I don't agree with that. So what you'll see over the next couple of episodes is just me wanting to encourage you. And if you know someone else that it can benefit, please share it. But just really encourage you about the options that people may have, you know, if it is whatever you decide to do with your body. And I'm hoping that it inspires someone to ask your doctor the questions about your fertility. If you don't know, if you've been on the fence about egg freezing, or you're nervous and just don't know, reach out to me. But ask your doctor, you know, speak to a fertility physician. You can just do a consultation just to ask questions. You know, one thing I really, really loved about the physician that I went to, the very first time, he was like, he took a piece of paper out and he drew out, he was like, I want to show you. And he broke it down and made it simple where I could understand the process, what will happen, the benefits for me. And also he had a really great personality, so I love that too. But you know, even when I froze my eggs, and I got 47 eggs and we froze 32, and based on what I was watching on YouTube and things like that, I was like, oh, if I get 20, that's good. And we got more. But he was like, you're not gonna need these, right? He's like, you're not gonna need these. But it was just so great to have a doctor who was so in such a good spirit, because the process itself can be a lot emotionally, and to have someone that when you go to your appointments has almost a bubbly and really nice attitude, that it makes it a little bit easier. But he helped me feel comfortable, because I went to another doctor and I only spoke with her virtually, but when I went to the facility for blood work, there was just no connection. And it is important that if this is something that you are curious about and you want to move forward, me personally, I believe that you should try to have a connection with the doctor where you're not just a number, but they're really invested in making sure that you're doing okay. They're checking in. You know, my nurse, I communicated with her a lot via email, and I have to be completely honest with you, within 10 to 15 minutes, I always got a response from her. She was very attentive, answering my questions, reassuring me, like following up with me if I had questions about the medication, injecting myself all those times. Like, I was always nervous, but it was truly like I felt like they cared about me and I wasn't just another number. And, you know, I think that is super important. So that's some of the things that, you know, I really want to share with you over the next couple episodes, just talking to women who either have, you know, had any fertility challenges or who wanted to do something based on the options they had available, you know, talking about the whole process of, you know, when a woman is pregnant and going through labor and post delivery, you know, what's the benefits of a doula. You know, I had a lot of conversations, you know, at one point I saw a lot of conversations on social media about doulas and kind of looking down on women who, or families that happen to use a doula post delivery. And I think, again, that is their option. So that's what my next couple episodes are going to be about, is just the options that come with some of the things that I've learned and that I want to educate other women during this time and families, because I think it's so important that we know the options we have available. Even though it doesn't seem like it's the popular decision, it's something that your family supports. They have a lot of questions. This is your life. This is your life. My mom was super supportive. She was so super supportive. My sister flew in town. Some of my very close girlfriends was here. Like, I had support, and I am so grateful, because I've heard some people talk about they do it alone, but I had support here and it made the process so much better. I was even craving deviled eggs, and my sister made them the day of my retrieval. But anyway, you know, just having them here meant a lot to me. Having them go to the appointments with me. My sister, my friend was here first, and then my sister, and they went to the appointments with me, and walking out and having them there and being able to share and, you know, show them the videos where they're measuring the follicles. It's just something that was exciting for me. And I just want to let all of you know, not only, you know, what I went through me sharing on my YouTube channel, but just hearing some perspective and stories and experiences from others, because I think it's a conversation that's worth having ongoing. And if you're afraid to talk to someone or reach out, hopefully this will not only educate you, but inspire you to learn more about your options. So I'm super excited to share the next, not just the next few episodes, but I am super excited about this specific topic, because I consider it as in honor of my 1-year anniversary of my egg retrieval, a decision that I made. And I want to bring this forward to you, especially that I'm in such a good place after I froze my eggs. You know, I don't feel depressed and down, that I'm not, that I haven't, you know, gone to a place where I feel like, okay, it's been a year. And I just want to bring some knowledge to you all, that you can just be aware and see how other people are doing, and that they love it where they are, whichever it is, based on some of the topics we're going to discuss. So thank you for watching another episode. I'm so excited to bring this to you, and I appreciate all your support. Please stay tuned and be on the lookout for the next episode 17. Have a good day.